Aside from the activities I have officially requested of those who are certified in legally, officially, of course, you would have to be. You can't be underground or, when it's in public like this. And actually, of course, bounty involves legal transaction, tender. But if uh, this moves along, thank you, in this fashion, with me waiting, uh, for personnel who I can contract. And at the same time, your local state governments are going through such situations as now. It has entered a government shutdown, the United States, a government shutdown of which it has not made official the length of time of it. Okay, is normal operations, but they also are stating that they foresee an extension may be necessary. And to that, there is no time given as to how long. Worst case scenario, in our minds, we're thinking the end of official operations as the government. And you think that their sentiment is, of course, after the shutdown, we have to get back to work. Their own lives and their need to get back to their own routines would do such, I think so. But in terms of activities, it's the continuing on of the downsizing and disappearing of facets of the government. Would it not be? Your ETA there on this timeline, which is going along with mine. It's my own life in real time, and your situation's progressing in that fashion, whilst you are accelerating and spending more time than on my own timeline, right? In your situation versus me. That is something of a negative thing you would be thinking for your own situation when you look at the pace of my life versus yours and your efforts versus mine. Doing it like this, and then I am waiting, whilst the government is kind of losing its operations, uh, for someone I can contract with in order to move forward my situation. Here's the thing, there already exists two sets of my own mom and dad at Sharp Grossmont Hospital for being in two car accidents. They were brought to the same morgue of the same hospital, and there's four people in total there. If I get to the point where I cannot hire, worst case scenario, anyone for the extrajudicial activities, the extrajudicial activities for producing the death of my own mom and dad, looking, because they already died how many times? In not only including these two accidents, up until now they've done these test runs, quote unquote, they became, of them dying on the 8, going west, and with a big huge ungok monster over there near the gas station near the 94. And they've been through events like this already, and like looking like right, uh, a carnival at night at Disneyland or something. They go through things like this and die, and they have actually, whether through pain or being shut off, and it looking like they went how many percent of the way towards death in total. We're producing their bodies, right? Is what we're trying to do firstly for the PML objective, and you can't do that out there. What are we doing there? We're actualizing their casings shut off. We're saying that it's easier now for me to hire people who would be interested in producing the act of their death via contracted enforcement from the government of which I am its administration leader, right? Lead administrator. As officially legal work. Saying that that's easier than producing them with just their casings shut off in that room over there, my own parents. Getting rid of these two over here who are not, and using them anyway. is what we're talking about, right? Because my own parents are not here. They have to be okay with that out there. With what kind of activities going on currently. It is only prolonging this situation and not getting down to finishing what has been started through formalization. The acquiring of this house as my own asset through the deed, and then that equaling my annual salary as the chancellor. And I've been the chancellor for how many years now? I got recruited, and that was, and then became chancellor, and that was 10 years ago on my timeline. Still waiting for this. While the universe has gone over how many hundreds of years, and now looking like what? You're actually in a situation where you are in a positive part of a cycle with positive only personnel working walled in the back, is what we think, isn't it? It started, didn't it? And as the negative composite of the aggregate there diminished, saying decimated, right? Went through all these phases that we all know of who know this information. And needed to bring back facets such as education because people are working at corporate and don't have experience of going to public school. They're all homeschooled, and that does affect their performance when it comes to the workforce. You can't have that when you look at your situations there. It's not supposed to be like that in comparison to what is considered a normal productive society and its abilities as corporate personnel. You're not supposed to give up like that. They don't do that, I think, when it comes to that. It's only because of that would be your own situation and knowing it. You like they're not having the confidence to stick to your guns or stick to your duties there, and then just like hightail it or just go home when people are thinking otherwise. If you were in publicly in a situation where you went to school 5 times a week, not have to be homeschooled without the staff and personnel required for your education, is why people act like that in those situations, not because of their actual abilities or knowledge. You would be thinking when you look at your own performance, maybe. Would you agree? It could be just that, but anyway, I'm saying for this situation here, there's 2 sets of them at Sharp Hospital. They can't get rid of them. They can only move them and keep me from seeing them. I produced the data that they have deceased with records showing the time of their death and date and the particulars of it. That's all I need in order to sell this house, right? And in that situation, where will I be? I'll be in another country already, developing doing the construction for 10 leagues for their facilities and mantling still as I am now. We are in this situation while we are looking at it as quote unquote normal. It's so normal, right? It doesn't look that way anymore, probably from the standpoint of what you see in terms of the activities of local state governments. Already quite looking like reality, even though because in around my environment, you can't bring me to another dimension where it looks so fracking like how I've seen when I traveled out in order to just see that. You can't have that around me, but you're out there. You have that out there, looking like, then thinking as negative as the Great Depression, in terms of kind of similar, in terms of your variables there. This needing to get taken care of, in which fashion will it be? If we can get the right, firstly, it's just actualizing their bodies in that room. You can't do that. I have to bring it to people who would be interested in working in terms of getting rid of them in public. Because what? Firstly, they're trespassing on the planet I'm on. And they're impersonating people that they are not. And using cards which are criminal and layered through hands and like FCA and all that. That's how they live. And they have no assets. And they're trying to kill me. I can't get rid of them in any of those two with either of those two methods. It ends up being The completion of formalization with them alive, me just ignoring them and not telling them where I live, for how many more years, until your governments of local state look like how, and I just start operations with everything, whether there's residents and how many, or not. And then I just pull out the records, because you can't do anything anymore. Then the end. Look, they're already dead. I just collect the sales profits from this house, and then it becomes so what already? I'm already in the millions, probably in my own accounts, with how many vehicles, doing what, and then even on the corporate angle, working as how. So who cares anymore? No. It's your decision here. Because, firstly, are you involved? You would have to be thinking it has to be of the positives who are not involved with liabilities, otherwise, they can't do the work. They're out there listening, and it doesn't come through level 2 firstly, does it? It's face to face firstly on 3, 2, 1. Okay. Understood. Thank you. And that will be it. Good evening, sirs and ma'ams.